So in the past few years, doulas have gained a lot of popularity. People are starting to understand that getting the support of a doula can help with better birth outcomes and just the general satisfaction of your birth experience. But doulas are not the only players when it comes to making birth better. There's also other very key, very valuable people that can change the state of birth astronomically, and it's midwives. So today I want to chat with you guys about why we don't just need doulas to make birth better. We really, really need midwives. Now, before we jump into it, did you know that there are 4 different types of midwives? It's okay if you didn't. We're going to bust it down real quick. The first type of midwife is a CNM, a certified nurse midwife. These types of midwives have to go through nursing school first, become a registered nurse, then they go on to a midwifery program, take the national board exam, and then they are good to practice either at home births, birth centers, or in a hospital. Now, I will note that most CNMs do not get formal training on home birth, so they will prefer to work in a hospital or at least in a birthing center. Now, CNMs are nationally recognized to be able to practice throughout the states. The second type is a certified midwife. This type of midwife does not have to become a registered nurse, but they do have to have a undergrad 4-year degree. It doesn't have to be in medicine. After they do their 4 years in undergrad, they can move on to a midwifery program, take the exam, boom, good to go. The next type is a certified professional midwife, or a home birth midwife is what a lot of people call them. A CPM does not have to go to nursing school, and they also do not have to have any type of university degree from a 4-year program. As long as they have a high school diploma, they can move forward into a recognized, accredited midwifery program, take their exams, and they're good to go. Now, let's note that with CPMs, they are typically trained for home birth. Most CPMs are looking to do home birth. And CPMs do not work in hospitals. They can attend hospital births, but they will not be there as midwives. They'd have to be in the role of just a support person. And the last type of midwife is a lay midwife, or a traditional midwife, or a community midwife. And this is essentially someone who has decided to completely forego any type of institutionalized education, and they either study under a experienced midwife, or they do some type of self-study or something of that nature, but they have no federally recognized or there's no fancy credentials, is basically what I'm saying. So those are the 4 types of midwives. Depending on what type of birth you want to have, your insurance, your financial situation, where you live, you would have to decide which one is best for you. Now, let's talk about why midwives are so important when it comes to seeing better birth outcomes. So me, as a doula, I spend a lot of time talking to pregnant people, getting them prepared for their birth experience. And I've come to realize that no matter how much I have knowledge and pass that knowledge on to my clients, if the system that they are going into to have their baby does not believe in the same knowledge or practice the same evidence-based information that I believe in, then we're heading up against a big fat wall. So, as a midwife, there's a more opportunity to be able to change how birth actually plays out, because midwives are medical professionals. So to give an example of this, because it sounds a little bit arbitrary the way I'm explaining it, and I want it to be a little bit more real to you. So let's say I'm talking to a client about fetal monitoring, and evidence shows that for low-risk pregnant people, there is no medical indication that necessitates them having to be continuously monitored, meaning if you have no pregnancy complications, if you're low risk, you should be getting intermittent monitoring if that's what you're requesting. Yet, there are lots of hospitals, lots of doctors, and lots of nurses who are perpetuating the idea that all birthing people, whether you are low risk or not, should be getting continual fetal monitoring. Now, this can be an issue because typically, in a lot of cases, people who get fetal monitoring continuously, they end up in the bed in one position and they're told, please don't move around a lot because you're messing up the monitor. Every time you move, the baby's coming off the monitor. We need you to stay in the bed and stay in this position. Now, if you know anything about birth, you know that it is very difficult to not just be in the bed, but to remain in the same position for any extended period of time. It's very difficult to do when you're having active labor. So in this case, I as the doula could advocate and say, hey, she's low risk. There's no real complications going on here. Is it possible that she could come off of these monitors and she could get intermittent monitoring? At that point, the power is in the hands of one, the birthing person, and two, the medical providers. Now, in most cases, even if the birthing person knows intellectually what is happening is wrong, it's not evidence-based, it's not what I want, it's still very difficult for them to stand up for themselves based on the psychological conditioning that when you walk into the hospital, you are under the authority of someone else and that cannot be challenged. That's a whole video for another day. But if the birthing person is like any typical woman in labor, they're going to listen to what the provider says. And 9 times out of 10, a lot of these providers are saying, no, she has to stay on the monitors. That's how we do it here. We're not changing it. That's the rules. That's the protocol. That's the routine. That's how we keep the baby safe. And a lot of times we get this word safe thrown out at us. And birthing people really are affected heavily by that because no one in labor wants to make their baby unsafe. I say all this to say, as a doula, when this type of situation transpires, when I advocate, when the patient themselves attempts to advocate for them on their own behalf, and those attempts are failed, the only person who can be inserted into the situation that can change the trajectory of what is happening is a medical professional. And that medical professional could be a midwife. Now, midwifery is based on supporting women. It's based on holistically caring for the woman. Not just seeing her as a body, not managing her medically, not pathologizing birth, but supporting her. And so the basis, the art, the science, the ideology of midwifery is based in supporting women, not managing and controlling them. So as a doula, I can advocate all day long. I can give all the evidence-based information all day long. But I, as a non-medical professional, can only get so far. While midwives, who are trained to support women from a different type of aspect than, let's say, OBs, they can make a true difference because they can be inserted into the medical paradigm, and just in all honesty, they have a different level of authority than a doula. So that's why I feel like we need midwifery to stay alive, to stay strong, to stay growing in order to see a difference in birth outcomes. There's a lot more to say here, and I'm running out of space on my phone. But if you agree with me, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Did you have a midwife attend your birth? Or let me know if you feel like you disagree. Do you feel like we don't need midwifery to make a change? Let's talk about it. All right, y'all, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you know when the next video comes out. Happy Midwifery Week.